Good morning. This is Dwight, and this morning we're recording Christ Letter 5. This is going to be D, I believe. We covered 1.5 pages, had wonderful discussion, all of us sharing ideas of what Christ is saying here, and that took a lot of time there, but I don't think it'll take as much time here. I wasn't even going to record this. I was just going to put it into next week's recording. But as I looked at it, kind of finishes a train of thought, a flow of thought that Christ is presenting to us. And then the following week, next week, we'll begin where we leave off with kind of going from where we have been into the Big Bang and how creation really comes into being. So it's a really, I'm not going to introduce anything from last week. I just encourage you that this is going to begin kind of toward the end of what Christ is saying or in the middle of this flow. So I ask you to look at Christ Letter 5C, and that's about an hour and 15 minutes. It was pretty long. We covered a lot, but Christ goes into a lot of stuff. And as I'm reading, I'm hearing more information to bring in for clearer understanding or to challenge us. You know, sometimes I say things and I'm challenged with a different belief, not challenged in a negative way, not right and wrong challenge, just I hear something different, or are you saying, or something. So anything that clarifies and gets us deeper into our understanding of all this so that we can live it is what it's all about. So we're going to begin with where we're beginning. If you'd like to read along, I highly encourage that. Again, I section off my thoughts that Christ puts in phrases, and I put a bracket around them. Sometimes they're brackets within brackets. So I invite you to do that in your text. That's one of the beauties of being able to have a hard written document that I can do all that stuff in. Okay, so if you're reading from Christ Returns, Reveals Startling Truth, it's page 222, paragraph 5. And the beginning is the ultimate universal dimension of consciousness / awareness. And I think I read it wrong. It's this ultimate universal dimension of consciousness awareness. So I'm not going to explain it. That's a space before anything is. And I think we covered that last week, so I won't go into it. If you're reading from Christ Returns, Speaks His Truth, first printing, it's page 253, bottom paragraph. If you're reading from the second draft to Speaks His Truth that I attached to Chapel in the Sky at AOL.com, it's page 160, mid-page. It's hard to say paragraphs on this, for me anyway. If you're reading from a draft previous to the one I attach, I call it the first draft of Speaks His Truth. It's page 17 near the bottom. If you're reading from the original manuscripts of Christ's letters, it's page 24 and near the top. Again, you're looking for this ultimate universal dimension of consciousness / awareness. And if you're reading from the ebook that you may have downloaded, it's simply called Christ, and it's page 195 at the top. So we'll go into a brief meditation. Well, it may not be. So just breathe and relax. Allow all concerns of the day to just drift away. Be in this now moment, totally present, at ease, calm, peaceful, serene. And we know we're in the state of being where there's no thought, only the stillness and silence within the intellect, within that thinking part of us. So if there are any sounds or disturbances around, we just let them be. We give them no attention. We don't allow them to distract. We just stay in this space of calm, peace, silence. As we feel and experience this, we prepare ourselves to receive the specific messages that Christ has for us personally and as a collective. From this time, you and I are one. We are one in this consciousness of Christ that's within us, around us, through us, as us, present, living us, breathing us, opening us to the truth of our being, the truth of life, and the creative process, and how we can create peace within ourselves, regardless of anything and everything going on around us. We can always choose peace. For me, there are no exceptions. So in this moment of stillness and silence, we open ourselves to the Word from Christ Universal, bringing us the messages that Jesus attempted 2018 years ago. I feel so blessed for this return of Christ's presence to uplift me and you and all in our world just by knowing who we are. I give thanks for our commitment, for setting our foot to the path, as Christ says, that these letters have come for us. For you and I can change the world through changing ourselves first. Not changing so much as evolving, transforming, transmuting the old for the new, becoming the truth that we already are. We're already spirit. We're already Christ. We're already good and love. We're already peace. We are the light. We are all these things. There are few on a planet telling us this truth. So Christ has come to remind us, to reveal to us the truth of who we are. And so I give thanks for this time that we have, for our commitment to it, and for all the good that comes from it. I accept that during this time we ascend a little more into our mastering our Christ self as we become more and more aware of what it is, how it works, and how we implement it with our intention, with our word, with our feeling, with our desire, with our willingness and courage. World peace before December 31st, 2018. We're on target. We are meeting the goal. I accept this for ourselves, you and me. I accept it for our world. I know that through this consciousness, all will come into being without chaos, but just evolving all the organizations we have, politics, criminal system, education, corporations, everything will evolve within its own beingness, its own intelligence, its own consciousness. And the transformation of our world will be easy and effortless. For all receive that which they are open to. And so I see our world awakening for all in our world. all politicians, all world leaders, all leaders of any kind, and most importantly for you and me. So I'm giving gratitude for Christ for bringing these truths to us, reminding us, revealing to us the truth of who we are. I thank our dear recorder, especially as we look through this portion of the letter with its formatting and just see the care she has taken to bring these ideas of Christ into some form that we can ponder them. Take time with what is it saying? How do I phrase this? How is Christ phrasing it? And for each of us to do it our own way. I'm just sharing mine. So I will go to the reading at this time. This ultimate universal dimension of consciousness awareness is not only in space, it is all space. It is undetectably everywhere. Can't see it. Science will never find it because it doesn't exist. And yet it's that which everything comes from. For those who think in terms of atoms, you can say it is the space in the atom. Therefore, it is in silence and equilibrium within the space of all elements and matter. So last week I had magnets, and I don't have them right now, and I'm not going to interrupt myself to get them. So, but the magnets, if you turn them, I don't know, for mine it was backwards to each other, so maybe the north and south are the sides instead of the top and the bottom. But in pushing them together, all I could feel is that resistance. And that resistance is saying there's some activity present, there's some energy that's being energized. But if there are no magnets between the magnets, there is no attraction nor repulsion. That's what total equilibrium. It says nothing, there's no thought, there's nothing that can be perceived. Because in that space is just the nothing. That's the only way I can say it. It's the nothingness from which everything comes. It's the nothingness that consciousness comes from. Consciousness is what activates this space and brings it into form. Where does it begin? Where does it end? I have no idea. I know for me, Dwight Colby Smith, it begins at the center of my being, because every choice I make, I'm creating with that. So anything that's in the space around me attracts everything it needs to fulfill that which I am. Okay. And how far does this I am go? It's universal. It goes back, back, back. It goes back beyond humanity, back beyond the earth, the solar system, the galaxy, back to that which began before anything was. Thank you. This is my opinion. Okay. Okay, so this is what it is. It is the ultimate universal dimension of consciousness. Now, there's also a universal dimension of consciousness that Christ talks about last week's call, and we also will readdress here. Okay, so that's the ultimate universal consciousness. Now he's going to talk about the universal consciousness. And he says the nature of universal consciousness is intent, also inactive and in equilibrium. Okay, so all that consciousness begins with is I am, and may not know what it is yet. All it knows is there's an idea I have that I want to bring into form. That's the way I think anyway. Probably not the way the universe thinks. It's the way I identify it. So in the beginning, it is the space now being energized. Okay, so it's like if I start bringing the magnets, even before I can feel them, I know their energy is attracting each to the other. Okay. Okay, so the nature of universal consciousness is intent, inactive and in equilibrium, but there is an intention there. Therefore, universal consciousness is an infinite, eternal, limitless, boundless state of powerful intent. Pristine, pure, beautiful. I'm going to start with in space, some vast, large area had an intention of, let's say, being a Jesus Christ on earth. And it had to design, it had to, first it has to create an idea. And then everything that consciousness intent needs is like subdivided in further definition of the universal consciousness. So using this example of bringing a Jesus, a Christ onto the earth plane, it began with somehow it felt it needed this huge galaxy, okay, to support this idea. And then within this galaxy, it developed possibilities for this Christ to come forth onto earth. And then finally it came down to, oh, here's the perfect place to unfold this being called Jesus the Christ. And then through the many generations, through the many evolutions of coming into a human being, and then through all the possibilities of all the alternative of human beings, this one received everything it needed that started way out at the beginning of the thought of the galaxy called the Milky Way, just to bring forth Jesus Christ into existence. And so it developed all of this, because all of this was necessary for this Christ to come into form. Okay. And so in our world, we saw him as standing out, as something different, as something unique. Some were afraid of him, you know, it's like he was going to take their power away. He was going to take away their income. Yeah, so, but there were those that listened to this Jesus Christ and said, wow, this is what we can be? Oh yeah, let's go for it. But over the 2018 years, that hasn't happened. So Christ has come and is giving everything we need, is giving us everything we need to become this Christ. And so the universe, again, came down through his beloved recorder that was prepared for, you're the one that's going to bring these teachings as clearly into humanity as my first attempt when I lived as Jesus in Palestine 2,000 years ago. So I always give thanks to the recorder and what she had to do to be prepared to bring these forth. Okay, so there's an intent for this galaxy, for this Jesus Christ, but that's all that's there. There's no form yet. There's just ideas. And then all these ideas are breaking down to other, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? Or this is what we need, this is what we need, this is what we need. And it just evolves itself with subconsciousnesses. The first one is bring Jesus Christ into the universe, okay? And this portion of space was chosen. And then everything that's necessary for this to come into form, because it's consciousness coming into form. Form is consciousness made visible, as Christ tells us. So for this Jesus Christ to come into form, for this Christ to come into form, all this had to come into being. Okay? We don't ask why. We just, everything it needs to do it, it does it. It just creates it. So this intent, it doesn't know what it's going to be. It's just chaos at this point, bringing order to itself. So the intent is inactive and in equilibrium. No resistance in it. Therefore, universal consciousness is an infinite, eternal, limitless, boundless state of powerful intent. Pristine, pure, beautiful. Becoming, easily, transforming, transitioning, attracting, energizing, forming. This intent is to express its nature. Okay, so for us, using Christ as the example, its nature is love. So the intent, so this intent to express Christ's presence is love all the way through. So love is the intent all the way through. This intent of universal consciousness is to express its nature. Therefore, universal consciousness nature, intent, is the allness of will and purpose. Now we begin with the masculine and feminine. Okay. In the stillness and silence is, well, that's discussed last week. Okay, so in this intent is the allness of will and purpose. It takes will, masculine, and purpose, feminine, to come together to bring this into form. Okay, all the way down, all the way down. This way, the whole thing. And he explains this next week's lesson on the Big Bang. He'll explain all this. This intent of will and purpose is always locked in embrace. So I think of will and purpose, think of the magnet with two sides, okay, as I showed it. So they're always locked in will and purpose. And both are active in each of the magnets, but they attract from each other to become, okay? So I don't know if it's making sense, but it's clear in my mind. So if you don't have the magnets or you haven't seen it on the magnets, it may be difficult to visualize, but just know you've used magnets and done the north to south and they resist, and you do north to north, south to south, and they attract. I think it works that way. Maybe it's the opposite, I don't know. Anyway, they're always locked in embrace. So they're always coming, the consciousness is always creating. It's always creating. It's creating that which is becoming. So it's becoming Christ's love. So everything from this intent is creating Christ's love. So all through our universe, all through our, at least us, our solar system, I can say this, and for our whole entire galaxy, I can say this. And I can think of that only intention for any galaxy is to bring forth unconditional love. It's its nature. It's what the universe is. Okay. But I'm using as this example. If I used Eliphaz as an example, will it still be love ultimately? So anyway, the intent is the allness of will and purpose. So it's important that we get that. That's a masculine and feminine. And he discusses masculine and feminine, so I'm introducing it here so we get the idea that these, we see male, female as separate, and Christ sees them as always in the energy of attracting, repelling. Okay, always attracting, repelling. So this energy is always going on. And then it's attracting and repelling. It's attracting that which it needs to come into form and repelling that which is not needed. Okay. So, and we do that with our minds too. We attract things with our minds, with our desires, our wants, our feelings. And whether we realize it or not, that initiates the creative process into creation. And so it's important that we think and feel that which we do want and feel the excitement, the joy, the fulfillment, the support, the opulence of it all. So in that, we know that we're always attracting the good. And not only are we attracting it, but that which we attract, we're also giving. So it's an in and out flow, always like breathe in, breathe out. Chop wood, carry water. You know, everything is just being, being, being. And when we be Christ love, that's all that we attract, and that's all that we put out. In that, there's nothing to fear. There's no lack. There's no disharmony. There's no conflict. It's only love, 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 love. And sometimes we have to work at it. Sometimes I have to make a choice of, instead of reacting, I instead absorb and accept and listen. And that guidance within, in the moment, can bring peace, can bring wisdom, can bring exactly that which we need as we align ourselves with it all the time. Okay, so that's intent. Now we're going to talk, intent is will and purpose. Will, I says masculine, purpose is feminine. So Christ is now going to break some of that down for us and explain the will and purpose and how it interacts with the intent. The universal will is to move and create. Okay, and again, that's the masculine principle as we're seeing in the previous letter. The universal purpose is to give individual form to creation and experience it. So it gives it the form and the emotion. Okay, that's why it's the feminine. The feminine is more spiritual generally than the masculine. As the male of our species gets more in touch with our feminine nature, we will become more and more spiritually aligned. And as the female becomes more in tune with the masculine in her nature, which most females are, they become more spiritually aligned, and we have all that we can have by filling the world with Christ conscious beings. Okay, so within the ultimate, going back to the ultimate now, this is before anything is, within the ultimate universal dimension of consciousness, awareness, intent, universal will is in a state of mutual restraint with universal purpose. So he's repeating something that I've pre-read. So there's this, if you push both hands against each other with equal pressure, they're going to be in equilibrium. Okay, it feels like effort, but in the universe, that energy is effortless. Okay, there's no effort to this vibrational energy. It's like two sides of a coin pushing against each other. They make the coin. They don't fall apart. They, you know, they do what they are. So the ultimate universal dimension of consciousness, awareness, intent, universal will is in a state of mutual restraint with universal purpose, masculine and feminine, both in perfect equilibrium. So that's what I'm saying. Even though it feels like pressure from us, they're in equilibrium, and there's a relaxed state of being in that equilibrium, but there's this energy of excitement. Okay, they're both in perfect equilibrium and within silence and stillness, okay, the ultimate. So the intention is still within the stillness and silence of space. Universal will is universal intelligence. Again, masculine. Masculine will, masculine intelligence. Universal purpose is universal love. Again, feminine, feminine, okay? Purpose. And they are universally in equilibrium in mutual restraint. When Jesus said, is quoted as saying, resist not evil, this is what he's talking about. Why resist? Why restrain? Why put up that energy? Just be in the energy of it. And in that, you know, we can push. And at some point we can say, we can relax in this and still have the same pressure. We can relax without pushing, and still it's there. I think of when I'm taking a shower and the water is coming down my face and I close my eyes tight, and then I realize, oh, I don't have to do that. The eyelids don't have to be closed tight in order to keep the water off. They just have to be closed, and the water automatically goes off. So this is the same thing, just relax into any situation. Bring forth the stillness and silence. So the universal will is universal intelligence. Universal purpose is universal love, masculine and feminine. Universally in equilibrium, in mutual restraint, out of which all things visible and invisible and human impulses have taken form. Again, going from the idea of bringing forth Christ and then this consciousness bringing into form the galaxy that we call the Milky Way with all of its solar systems and all of its parts and pieces until there's one that is, oh, and all this seeming finite possibilities, here's the one that has the best opportunity for this possibility to come forth into form. So universal will is universal intelligence. Universal purpose is universal love. Universally in equilibrium in mutual restraint, out of which all things visible and invisible and human impulses have taken form. If you're not reading, it would be very difficult, I think, to perceive this, but I think as I'm speaking and you're reading along, I think you see how clearly these phrases take place. If you could receive the fullness of universal reality into yourself, you'd be disintegrated by its explosive power and dissolved into formless consciousness awareness. Okay, so this is the big thing, that the ultimate. Christ is saying that if we could receive this idea fully enough, that it could expand us to the point where we become nothing again. And that may be what happens when a solar system or a planet or whatever goes back into the nothingness from which it came. Is it's served its purpose to such a degree that it has no more purpose, and therefore it just dissolves back into the nothingness from which it came. But consciousness always can have a purpose. You know, like when Jesus no longer existed as a body, he was still conscious, he was still Christ consciousness. And this consciousness aligned with all the Christ consciousness, and therefore continues expanding, 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 as Christ tells us in all these letters, that it's like it's coming close to this no thingness, but won't go there, because going there is, it now has no more purpose and dissolves. So if you could receive this, the fullness of universal reality into yourself, you'd be disintegrated by its explosive power and dissolved into formless consciousness awareness. Formless consciousness. We're still conscious awareness, but formless, okay? This something, as far transcends the individual humanhood as the heat of and light of your sun is billion times more powerful than the light of your fireflies flickering in your darkness. So with all the understanding that I feel I have, is still just itsy bitsy teensy part that says, wow, can I imagine, I cannot imagine what it's going to be like after death. I just know it's going to be, as beautiful as this life is, I know it's going to be more than that. And the thing is, we can live it to the highest degree as a human being as we can. And this is what Christ refers to as ascending, aligning the soul back with the source of its being, aligning the individualized consciousness with a consciousness beyond, above us. That's the consciousness of, let's say, all humanity, the consciousness of all the earth plane, which is all love and equilibrium. So we're stopping there for this week. I thank you for being with me, and I'm glad I chose to do the page and a half rather than put it on to next week so I could spend more time with it with you. Thank you, and have a blessed week, blessed day, blessed life, and a blessed 2018, the year of world peace on earth. Bye for now.